Are you coding it originally?
No, that's my student.
Wonderful. Well, I will have to look for computer science. My son just finished computer science.
Wow.
My
son too.
So I understand a little bit now. My academic discipline is history. So history and I do not know computer science. Now I've learned from my son.
My son also majored in computer science.
Oh, really? You studied here or?
No, in another university.
Okay.
Yeah, my son.
Oh, okay.
My son just graduated from the UIUC.
This is my colleague, Charlie Levine from College of Canyons.
College of Kenya.
Yes.
Did you say you have?
No, my son.
Your son?
Yeah, just graduated last year.
Wow, thank you.
Computer science.
They have a great program.
Yes.
Yeah, that's terrific. My hometown is Chicago.
Oh, really?
And my son, we looked at the university there, that was one of his places.
Yes.
He went to school in California, but we go to UIUC.
Yeah, so now my son is working in San Francisco.
Oh, in tech or in? Big tech?
Startup company. Yeah.
Oh.
In the whole AI.
The big path, the big dream, you know, your graduate degree. Very proud.
对，没有是他们自己找，然后他们你现在去南投现场。对，因为他们就是
我是自学他们的 computer science。
每一次他们有一些 program 就是。
And I have a small present for you from College of the Canyons. Together with my colleagues, we have some souvenirs from College of the Canyons. Thank you so much. Ah, yes.
Good to see you again.
Yes. Yes.
we did yesterday.
Oh, your teacher can wonderful.
Actually, our like section
朱院长，你的孙子是
2岁半。
对，是你的
我的女儿，算我外孙。我女儿
想不到，
您像外公呢，我儿子才刚1岁。呀，这过10年还年轻。太好了，是啊，这样真好。那个年轻的岁月刚开始。
难以想象啊！
对呀，想象多幸福啊！你看，跟着孩子又重新又记一次啊。我还开了我子公司对，
我刚才听到，
刚开始会快，就是那个叫发的屏风，
应该有看过，上次
可能在教学时间或者其他地方，
像是那个台联大的校长会议在那上要推，
我们用来推，
对，
希望让那个地位比较
对，所以那时候应该是在荧幕上看到。
好。
Go ahead.
Perfect, you made it. Okay, give me a second.
它这个是收音吗？对，有麦克风。今天还有人在线上看，有一些人没有发现。
His arms. Okay. Right. Yeah, right.
很大声，是很大声，不好意思，哎，你好，对，是谢谢，没有瑞典小雨要送给你的，刚，对，谢谢，刚拿的吗？对，刚拿的，对，这是给你的，这里啊，对，没有，哦，
我有准备4份，
有准备4份，好 ，OK， 好，谢谢。好，咖啡拿。
中午有教师会议，所以就跟
是给你的，我给你小心。你要不要我做？
客气。
我们先不下中房间，因为我马上是在打那边上。
漂亮。
Okay. Okay, yeah, so we need to train, yeah, so we need to go talk to you there.
Yes.
我中午没有用。
Yeah, but we can write it over to, 还可以，真的吗？
所以。
Like here. Yeah, this one. They actually do live in the house.
In the middle?
Oh, sure, okay.
好久不见。
Very important person. I don't
Yes.
know. That's very strange. And this is the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Speakable.
Yeah.
Great. Wow.
Okay, so before we start, we also prepare some gifts for you and Mr. Cheng. Yeah. And thank you.
There we go. Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here.
这张照，大家。
Wow.
哎，谢谢，孩子。
这边照。
今天总管又怎样？看大家。
One more.
Where did I get this from? Where did it disappear to? Thank you, whoever gave this to me. He ran away.
Thank you. It's about the consortium.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right. Professor James and Professor Jia Zheng, and welcome here to NYCU. And let me introduce our colleagues. I'm Yongshen Chen, the Dean of the Office of Academic Affairs at NYCU, and I'm also a faculty at the Department of Computer Science. And actually, we have a lot of professors from computer science here. Okay, so let me introduce. Okay. Okay. Likewise. The director Sun from the Institute of Education. Okay, Professor Sun. And the Professor Huang from National Tsinghua University, Department of Computer Science.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the detail.
Yeah, and the postdoc.
Postdoc. I'm Tony from National Tsinghua University.
General University.
Thank you.
And then let me
Professor Han,
yes.
also
from Tsinghua.
Yeah.
Same department. CS.
CS department, National Tsinghua University. Okay. So and Professor Lee.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just see an old friend.
Yeah. Okay, Professor Chen, also, okay, Institute of Education.
And this is my colleague.
Okay, sorry.
我们峡谷大学台湾代表。
Okay.
Representative for us in Taiwan.
In Taiwan,
Yes.
wow,
So
College
this-
of Penyang has as representative in
Yes.
Taiwan. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, and Professor Huang from Department of EE, Electrical Engineering at NYCU. Okay, so okay, Professor Lee. Professor Lee, okay, right?
Long time no see. You don't have to move here.
It's such an honor to see you again.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you so much
Nice
for
to see
coming.
you again.
It's wonderful to see you. I always learn so much from this gentleman. Everybody around the world learns from this gentleman.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also have some colleagues online. So let me introduce Professor James a little bit. Professor James is the Dean of Educational Technology, Learning Resources, and Distance Learning at College of the Canyons in California, I believe. And James is a recognized global leader in open education. He is the past president of Open Educational Global and the Community College Consortium for OER. And he has so many experiences in promoting the open education. And in 2019, he received the President's Award from Open Education Global for advancing open education around the world through his exceptional dedication, outstanding contribution, and exemplary service. And he has been an invited keynote speaker and trainer OER and digital learning in almost everywhere in the world, US, Europe, Asia, and I think I believe he is a trainer for Middle East and North Africa, Poland, and Australia, and the most important, in 2018, is a consultant for Taiwan Open Course and Education Consortium in Taiwan. Yeah. So okay. So today, Professor James will give us a brief talk about why or how AI can change our education, and particularly in open education, and how can we know the teaching effectiveness evaluation of by using these technologies and digital learning. So let's welcome Professor James.
Thank you, everybody, and hello to everybody online. Thank you so much. I want to start by saying how honored I am to be here, and that I recognize the world-class university in which we are sitting, world-class education as well as a beautiful campus. I had the pleasure of walking this morning around your beautiful campus. And Taiwan, of course, has a world-class educational system. Thanks to people like Professor Lee, Taiwan is recognized as a leader in MOOCs around the world. So I want to share with the greatest modesty some trends in the United States, some ideas. I hope we can have a discussion. I do not want to put forward the idea that we know the correct way. We are here, thinking about partnerships and dialogue. So with that, let me start. Also, well, let me say with apologies to those who were in Tainan yesterday. You will hear some of the same material, but I hope that we can have more of a discussion today. And congratulations to Professor Huang for a wonderful event yesterday in Tainan. And thank you for your hospitality, really. So I'll go very quickly through the beginning. First of all, on behalf of Open Education Global, the global organization for promoting OER, I want to thank you for being a member of Open Education Global. You can see here that its mission is to promote and advance open education around the world and to empower all learners through open education. There are 360 members around the world. And of course, TOCEC is a valued member. The leadership has asked me to bring their thanks to you for your continued membership. Open Education Global focuses on 3 areas: field building, helping to develop the field of open education; knowledge exchange, the type of activity we're doing now, we're exchanging knowledge; and value co-creation, creating value. For example, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see developing a network of open organizations, working closely with UNESCO to promote the UNESCO OER recommendation, hosting an open education policy forum, and hosting open education for a better world. So we know that over the years we have had colleagues from Taiwan join these activities, and the leadership of Open Education Global hopes that we will continue to see Taiwan participation in these activities. Today, we'll talk about the following topics. Quickly identify some trends in the changing landscape of U.S. higher education. Also, spend a little bit of time talking about training programs for online and open education. A little bit of time talking about how delivery formats are changing. In 2019, life was simple. We had online, we had MOOCs, we had in-person. Now we have a million different formats. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I hope we can spend more time talking about AI. I know we have experts in the room, computer scientists who understand the technology better than I do, but also as educators. What do we do as educators about AI? Quick note about vocabulary. I will probably mix up my words. I will say distance education, distance learning, online education, and online learning. I mean the same thing. I will also say academics, faculty, instructors. I mean the same thing. You all, professors, all of us. And then college, university, higher education. Yes, there are some fine detailed differences, but generally, all of us engaged in higher education. So thank you for understanding that. Let's start off by recognizing change is everywhere, right? Change is the only thing that always is happening. So it's a funny characteristic of higher education. We all become educators because we want to learn. We want to change our minds. We want to grow. But our institutions, I say from one dean to another dean, our institutions are very conservative. Our institutions do not change very quickly. So So how is the landscape of U.S. higher education changing? This is a graphic illustration of 2019 compared to 2020, the number of institutions that were offering no online classes to the number of institutions where all classes were online. I know Taiwan did not make the great transformation as much as the rest of the world did, but this certainly shook higher education in most of the world. We also know that university leadership still does not believe in online education. This is from a survey of university presidents. University presidents think that in-person teaching is better than online teaching. So university presidents, 67% say in-person teaching is excellent. But only 21% of university presidents say online teaching is excellent. There might be many reasons for that. But the reality for professors is that they're teaching in every delivery format in the United States now. In the top, you see 2019, 96% of professors were teaching face-to-face. At the bottom, 2022, you see that there's a great mix, a greater mix. So our professors are working harder, they have to learn more, they have to adapt quickly, and maybe the universities are supporting them. Maybe universities are training them, maybe not. But we see some really interesting differences here. Students, their perception or their opinion of online teaching got better. So at two-year institutions like College of the Canyons, four-year universities, almost half of students have a better opinion of online learning now than they had before. So we have this difference between university leadership and the students and the reality for professors. Right? As Dean said, we're stuck in the middle. We know this. Okay. Yes. So we know the result for this is enrollments are going down. There's one exception, that is elite institutions, Harvard, Stanford, Chicago. They're fine. They get all the students they want. But every other type of institution, every other type of college and university in the United States, the enrollments are down, down, down. One reason, of course, is the birth rate. Is this what it looks like in Taiwan?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 The result of this is the number of universities that are closing. This shows the number of universities that have closed in each of the past few years. So look at the trend overall is universities are closing. We see every day when we open the newspaper or open the news in the United States, we read about another university or college just closing its doors. I know you had a very successful merger here, good business decision probably, but the result in the United States often is that colleges and universities just close. They don't change quickly enough. So my estimation is that leaders want things to be the way they were before, but the students don't want to go back. So that's a big challenge for all of us. So what do we do about that? The reality is students in the United States at least want to go online. They want maximum flexibility. Maybe they want in-person, but they also want online. So maybe institutions are supporting the faculty. Let me ask everybody here, if you're teaching online in some way, did you have a formal training program before teaching online?
No.
Okay. So yeah. But this is typical for higher education, isn't it? We self-trained. That's right. We're very good at learning. Nobody helps us learn how to teach, but you have a center of teaching and learning here. So you have some support here. So what's happening in the United States? In 2020, when we had to make the big change, 97% of universities said we had to use professors with no teaching, no online experience. Only 50% said we use professors with some online teaching experience. At College of the Canyons in 2020, 50% of our professors had formal certificates in online teaching before the pandemic. So it was pretty easy for us to make the change. Fast forward 2023, this is just a microcosm of higher education in the United States. But you know, California is the largest state in the US. Our community colleges, with 115 community colleges, we are the largest system of higher education in the world, serving 2 million students. The California State University is the largest public university system in the United States. So before the pandemic, training was not required everywhere. Today, it's required before you can teach online. In fact, at our institution, before you can even use the learning management system, you have to complete a training course before you can even use it. So here's an example, a few examples from College of the Canyons, but this is pretty typical. It's pretty typical for all of US higher education. During the pandemic, we just gave thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of training, more than we had before. The result was that the success rates of our students increased. During the first year of the pandemic, more students were succeeding. It sounds crazy. When the world was going crazy, everyone was stressed. We were bringing in new professors to teach online, but they all went through our training program, and the data tells us student success went up. So a quick question for you to think about. Do you know at your universities how your students in online classes succeed compared to your students in other classes? It's very helpful for us to know that. We look at that in the United States. We look at race and ethnicity, but also by age, by gender, by their financial situation. So we can think about the different types of students who are in our classrooms and if they're succeeding, and then we use that to change our training to adjust to the problems that we see.
Can I
Yes,
ask
sir,
a question?
please.
So how do you define the success of students?
Yes,
So pass
thank
the
you.
course or?
Yes, yes. So in the United States, and this is pretty general across the whole United States higher education, there are two big measures that we use. One we call success. That means completing the class with a grade, it's an American term, a grade of C or better. Okay. So in the American system we have A, B, C. What is it in Taiwan? The top grade, so it's like the third grade.
At most universities use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So completing with C or better, that is success. Completing and a passing grade. Retention tells us how many students made it to the end of the term, end of the semester. So those are the two primary things we look at. So our students staying in the class and our students earning a good grade. Yeah. So again, for us, I want to go backwards. There we go. Wrong button. Sorry. So sorry, everybody. So for us, yeah, that number went up. Okay. And of course, in the United States, we're obsessed with race and ethnicity. So the example you see on the screen looks at students who were tracking by race and ethnicity. That's one of the areas that we focus on. So what does our training program look like? Again, the details are from College of the Canyons, but this is very typical of what we see across higher education. We have three essential components. First, learning the technology. So I said a training course in the learning management system, a training course in accessibility, so for students who might have a hearing impairment or a visual impairment. Professors can complete that course by themselves, clicking through, self-paced or facilitated, so with an instructor. The second major component, and really the most important component, is learning the pedagogy. There's a great body of literature about the difference between learning theories that we employ on campus and learning theories we employ in the online classroom. different tools for communicating. Of course, we have discussions, we have videos, we have lots of apps. We can do group work, all of the things that we know from in-person classes. How do you adapt that to the online classroom? It's very important that we understand supporting online students, right? If we're talking about supporting the professors, what about the students? Just because students play video games online, because they use dating apps, it doesn't mean they're good students online. They need to understand how to be students online. And this training is always facilitated. It's a traditional class with a professor or a colleague teaching that. The most important element is that it's fully online, so that you experience what it's like to be an online student, right? I look around the room, we have many younger colleagues here. Maybe you had the experience of being an online student. But then people my age, I never took an online class when I was studying. Right. So we have to experience it ourselves so that we develop empathy with our students, right? Or we believe that's a key element. We believe that's a very important element. Here are some more details about the training, emphasizing that this is required before you even teach online. Our introduction to the learning management system and accessibility, that's, for us, that's 4 hours, small. The introduction to the learning theory and the pedagogy, that's 36 hours. That's the equivalent of a real class for us. That's a real class. Some professors fail the class. Most professors pass the class, but some fail. It's a real class. It's hard. If you want to teach a Zoom class, there's a special training for teaching the Zoom class. And every 3 years, you have to do training again. Because technology changes, learning theory changes, and also regulations change, policy changes. And I'll talk about policy a little bit later. We spent the last 2 years talking about policy. It changes all the time. Also, the question of compensation or pay, that's a question for every institution that every institution will answer differently, of course. At our institution, we pay the professors to complete the training. We believe it's that important. It's so important for the success of our students that we invest the financial resources to train our faculty. We also provide ongoing resources for our faculty. After you complete the training, we have many self-paced courses that are online for you to work through on your own, go back and look at, get new updates. On the left-hand side, for example, you'll see we have created course templates or example courses, master courses that professors can download and start using immediately. Our team, have designed those courses with the perfect implementation of best practices. And then we give them to the professors, and then they can start teaching more quickly. They don't have to worry about building the room, right? The professor did not build this room. Somebody else built this room who specializes in this. But underneath all of our training, the essential element is the human relationship. We talk about humanizing online education. Humanizing when the professors see this as human beings, not as a number. We know that brain science tells us when people feel cared for, when people feel recognized as human beings, the chemicals in their brain give them happy feelings. If people feel alone in a new situation, they feel scared. So how do we do that online? We want our students to have happy chemicals in their brain, to feel engaged. We train our professors to ask these questions when they're teaching online. You can't walk into the classroom and say, "Hey, how are you? Good to see you, my old friend." Right? You can't do that as easily. So how do you do that online? How do you make the students feel connected online? How do you show them that you're a human being online? This is sort of the foundation of all of our training. We ask all of our professors to have a welcome page. The very first page of your class, when the student clicks, should be welcoming. Hello, I'm a human being. It's me. Welcome to my class. Here's a picture of me with my dog, with my baby. Something, right? Maybe it's a video. Maybe it's a video every week. 30-second video every week. But letting them know that you're a human being and not a robot. We ask our faculty to survey the students at the beginning. I'll talk about that in a second. And how do you give feedback that supports students so that they're not getting feedback from a robot, they're getting feedback from a human being. But let's be real, that's a lot of work, right? It's very easy to write a computer program to check the code that the student submits. It's very easy to use AI to check the essay now, right? It's very easy. But that doesn't make the student feel connected. So how do we do that? Let's see, sorry, I get messed up with the clicker. Okay, we ask our professors to survey the students with these kinds of questions before the class or at the beginning of the class so that they know, what name do you want me to call you? What could be a barrier for your success? Do you have an illness? Are you caring for a parent? Are you working 2 jobs? Do you have a reading disability? What is it about you that I should know? Et cetera, et cetera. So we provide this model of a survey to all of our professors to use in their online classes so that they can start to know their students. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the community colleges or College of the Canyons that think this is important. During the pandemic, so last year, Harvard convened a task force on the future of teaching and learning, and Harvard faculty, Harvard professors said that they want to add elements to their classes. These elements are mirrors of what I was just talking about. They want more interactive elements. Harvard professors want collaborative learning, peer learning, human beings working together. Harvard professors also want to bring in guest experts, human beings, right? So it's not just community colleges talking about this, it's your peer institution like Harvard is talking about this too. And at the core, I said this yesterday, and I will say, I said this in 2018 when I was here. We are engaged in a fight for our existence as professors. If we can be replaced by robots, the government, the ministry, and the university leadership will replace us with robots. It's cheaper. It's easier. The robots don't complain.
And you don't have to prepare pensions.
You don't have to pay pensions. You don't have complaints. You don't. So many problems. Professors make so many problems. Really? Am I right? You can't. So it's so much easier to have a robot teach your class. So how do we make sure that human beings are important? Well, let's be human beings in our teaching and show the universities that our students succeed more when they use human beings. Okay, we also have to support students. We do this in many ways at College of the Canyons. I'll talk about each of these. We provide our students with a survey before they start to see, are you the right person to take an online class? Do you know how to use software? Do you like to read? Do you like to communicate in writing? All of these skills that you have to use in an online class. So if the student gets If the student answers yes to all these, oh, probably you're a good candidate for online learning. We also asked our professors to write a letter, a personal letter to students. We post it online. Students go look at it online. And the letter says, hello, welcome to my class. My class is this. This is different than my on-campus class. I am this human being. Do you need special software? Do you need special tools? So that students know before they start, is this a good class for them? We provide many guides for our students to understand the online classroom, many screenshots and videos so that they know how to work around in the online classroom. Again, because students are doing online dating or online shopping or online gaming, it does not mean that they know how to be an online student. So we help them with that. We provide support, 24/7 support for our students if they get stuck. Most students are working at night. Most professors are not working at night. So we want the students to keep moving during the class. If they're working at midnight, we want them to keep on going. We don't want them to wait until morning to get a solution. But all of this takes a big team. So we invest in a team. All of colleges and universities in the United States that have successful online programs have a team dedicated to online teaching. Maybe it works with the Office of Academic Affairs, maybe it works with the Center for Teaching, maybe it works with the Center for Innovation or Center for E-Learning, but there are somewhere in the organization there is a team dedicated to all of this that I'm talking about. This is what our team looks like at College of the Canyons. So working for me, under me, we have a full-time director. Her only job is Director of Online Education. She has staff. We have one staff who focuses on supporting students. We have one staff who focuses on supporting faculty. We have one person, one staff who takes care of the learning management system. We have an instructional designer who helps make things pretty and trains us on the newest technology. And then we have a team of people who are working on OER, searching for OER, publishing OER. And I'll say, this is not a very big team. I need more. I'm looking at my colleague here. I need more staff. But this is sort of the minimum that we have for an institution of our size. We have around 30,000 students. So in our world, we're a medium-sized institution. We're not big, we're not small, 30,000. We have, let me think, 220 full-time professors and around 400 part-time professors.
Actually, no, 782 at the report. For 782
part-time. 700 part-time?
782.
Okay, almost 800 part-time professors and 220 full-time professors. So this team is not large enough, but I want to again say that in order to do the support that I'm talking about, all of these things that we're talking about, we need to have a team. So I hope that the dean will take that message, you know, that it's not cheap, it's not free to have a strategic approach, to take a strategic approach to student success. It's not cheap. Okay, lots of other things are changing. The formats are changing. 2019, life was easy, hybrid, online, in person, and then institutions like yours and your peer institutions have MOOCs. 2023, we've got a lot more going on. A lot of Zoom classes, live classes via Zoom. But I want to spend a minute talking about HyFlex, that this is the new trend. And actually, this room, this very handsome room, is set up very well for a HyFlex class. HyFlex is the option for students to have maximum choice. The professor is always in the classroom. The professor is here every day. Students choose. Do they come in person or are they online? We are doing a HyFlex symposium right now. The difference is that in a HyFlex class, the colleagues or the students who are online, they would be displayed on a big screen so we could see them and interact with them. We would have microphones and speakers so that the colleagues online could participate in the discussion, and all of us going back and forth. If I'm here writing on the tablet and displaying it on the computer screen, it's also displayed online so that the students online can participate and they're feeling engaged. Again, this gives maximum flexibility to students. Maybe they're working, maybe they have an illness, maybe they have a child they have to take care of, but it's maximum flexibility. This is what a high-flex classroom might look like. Again, this room is set up very well for that. We might add a big screen, a big monitor here, so we can display the online students, maybe some microphones so that we can hear each other. But this room is really nicely set up for it. For scheduling, it's kind of challenging to get to know where it fits in the institution. How do we categorize it? What kind of class is it? But it's very popular in the United States right now. Again, because of the maximum flexibility for students. We also have policies and procedures around online learning. We have to define it. What is it? Can the professors just do anything they want? Can they be on campus sometimes, online sometimes, or is there a structure for them? And what do students understand it to be? When we say students, you're taking an online class, how do they understand that? And assessment, how do we do assessments online? We know how to watch the students in the class. We know if we bring them into a lab and they're writing code in the lab, we know that that code was written in a secure environment. If they're writing an essay on campus, we know that was done in a secure environment. What about online? How do we test that? How do we observe that online? There's not an easy answer to that. With our policies, I said before, the policy says training is required before you teach online. You have to use the institution's LMS. You cannot be the great inventor and invent your own LMS and use that. Congratulations if you wrote your own LMS, but the students use the university's LMS. It's a university classroom. Interaction is required. This is required by state law in California and by federal law in Washington, D.C., that there must be interaction all the time. We have to document the interaction. The auditors come and check. They will look inside of our online classes to see, was there a communication between the professor and the students every week, every chapter, every module? So we have to be doing that. What does that mean? These are examples of what interaction means, and this is taken from federal law and state law. Actually, word for word, this is what we have to demonstrate. What about assessments? Holy cow. Assessments are challenging sometimes. The way I think about assessments, and some of the literature talks about assessments, is pro. Make the assessments pro assessments. So personal, is it something that only you could do? Right? It's something that's coming from you as a human being. Make it relevant. It's relevant to a topic today. It's relevant to the news today. It's relevant to your institution, your city, your situation. Ask for an opinion. I'm arguing in one way, I'm arguing in another way. In other words, the assessment should ask that students do something that you can't copy online, right? It hasn't been done 50 times before, and you can just buy the essay or copy the essay, or the computer code even, right? If you're writing computer code, the lower level code, maybe the lower level code, it's not so important if it's original, but when you're getting to the final execution of the program, you want to be sure that the higher level code is speaking to a unique situation, a unique case study, a unique scenario. Also, as a practical matter, beyond the theory, our colleagues often will provide assessments that are timed. There's a time limit. You can't take, all day. It's 1 hour. It's open or it's closed. interpersonal. You might have to do the assessment in a group, right? So you're working in a group. And practical. Is it something that can be demonstrated, that is useful to industry? Is it solving a problem for industry? Is it creating something that you can show people? So is it hands-on? At the end, you have something that students really want to do. It's not just theory, it's something that students will want. They want a copy of it because it's interesting. So this is just the way I think about it in my head, but some of the literature also talks about the pro tip assessment. Now, I'm talking about assessing our intelligence. Now we come to the fun topic of AI. Holy smokes. This is a challenge for all of us. Start off with some art. One person knows. So what can you tell us about this photograph, sir?
It's an AI generated.
Yeah. Yes. And what's so interesting about this being an AI generated photo?
It's the champion of the song competition.
Yes. This photo won the global award, the global Sony Photography Award just last month, I think, as the best photo in the entire world. And then the creator refused the award, right? And yet, this photograph exists. It exists in the world. It's here. It's interesting. I want to look at it. It makes me think. It's here. There's no denying. So let's be sure we understand what we're talking about. ChatGPT is just a product, right? It's one product. They have the best marketing team, right? They have a great marketing team, but there are many other products out there, right? Every day there's a new AI product. This is one type of AI, generative AI. Again, the computer scientists here, they know this, so tell me if I say the wrong thing. But generative AI is a large language model drawing on a body of text, a corpus of text, a corpus of knowledge that is defined. With ChatGPT, we don't know what that body of knowledge is. Maybe it's Reddit or Facebook. Maybe it's Wikipedia. We don't know. ChatGPT copies the patterns. It detects the patterns, copies the patterns, and it predicts what word will come next. Right? So we're all on the same page.
And in a sense, it's already so many years ago, 6th generation ago of the iPhone. When you type, it kind of predict potentially what next word might be.
Yes.
Or like if you spell it wrong,
yes,
potentially wrong, and they will just autocorrect. That's already generative AI.
Exactly.
We just don't think it that way.
Exactly. Well, as we see here, we have all used AI today. Every single one of us has used AI today somehow, right? Maybe some of you or your students made these tools, right? And of course, Hsinchu is a world leader in technology, and you have a strong presence in AI. So this might be your work here. Oops. But it's also important for us to understand there's no intelligence, right? There's no sense of true or false. And if the sources or the corpus is biased, if the corpus is filled with racism or Western worldview, that's what the output will be to, right? So what do we see in the United States? First of all, the reaction was, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's the end of education. Then we saw, for a short period of time, we have to ban it. Hey, Dean, make a rule against it, please. Get rid of it. Nobody can use it. Well, what do you know, that's not possible. It exists. It exists. Like the photograph. The photograph exists in the world. We can't ban it. We hope people are learning. Well, we know people are learning. A lot of seminars, a lot of research, a lot of publications, a lot of discussion. I hope we're in the phase of improving and adapting and preparing our students. And you know this in Hsinchu, your students will have great opportunities to work if they're understanding AI, right? This is the future market, future But in the classroom and in society, we don't have social norms yet. We don't know if it's cheating or if it's a helpful tool, because we haven't made a rule about it, but we also don't understand it as a society. We see a lot of adaptations. The journal Nature, right, which is the top research publication in the world, they already have in their author statement, they've established a rule. ChatGPT is not an author, but you can acknowledge it. Use of an LLM should be properly documented in methods. It's a tool in the methods section. So identify it. So that leads me to think about our classrooms. How do we tell our students? When can you use it? When can you not use it? How should you acknowledge it? Is it in your methods section? Is it in your bibliography? If you're using it, which tool is it? Is it ChatGPT or one of the other many tools? What are the data inputs for the tool you chose? If you're choosing this tool, is it just taking information from Facebook, or is it taking information from Wikipedia? That's going to give you a different result. Be transparent. Tell your classmates, how are you using it? So let me pause here. I still have more to share, but I'm curious, at your universities, have you established rules? Are there norms? What's the discussion at your university, Tony?
Probably we are staying the positive side of using AI, and we have a practical guidelines in teaching, learning, assessment, and hold competition and workshop for students to learn and use it and make it transparent, like using put in a footnote or put in a method or something like that.
Wonderful. I want it. You should be here.
No.
I want to see that too.
Yes.
Probably today or tomorrow there will be a newsletter. Yeah, and we will document that in both Chinese and English version.
Wonderful. Please send us the link. Sure. We want to use it. How did you get to that point? Was it a big discussion? Was it easy?
Not easy, but actually from the release of the ChatGPT, our presidential office asked our dean to have a task force, and in that task force we invite professors from all the colleges who are familiar with AI, and we also have student groups discuss with it. And in that task group, I try to organize people's ideas, and because I was trained in educational technology, so we put some perspective on educational technology to help them into practical guidelines. Mm-hmm. And through this guideline, we hope to help our faculties able to be familiar with that, and even when we design any assessments with ChatGPT or any other AI, we want them to test it. To use that to have more exploration and more discussion about how to use it. Because our dean of Tsai Ing-jun, he said that he used the generated answers to discuss with the different students about how ChatGPT's perspective is different from the theoretical perspective. So I believe that we will invite more case studies to help our faculties understand how to use it. But from the side of a teacher and learning center, we also hold several workshops and seminars Midjourney and ChatGPT, and we will have a one-day workshop to teach our faculty and students how to use it. And we will hold competitions next semester to invite more connections, not just from Tsinghua, but from other universities in Taiwan to join together to learn how to use it. Because collaborative in using those tools, that is the future of how to prepare students in the future workplace.
Wow, that's fantastic. Bravo.
And I know that in Yangming Jiaoda, probably you also hold Zhou Qian Laoshi to invite faculties to discuss how to co-living with AI. So I think in Taiwan we try to very hard to treat every step to keep on focusing on those issues. Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think similar things happens in YCU.
Yes, yes.
And we had some several forums with professors and also with students to reach a consensus that we encourage professors and students to use AI tools properly. So we will set up, actually we have already set up a practice guideline for students and professors.
Wow, we need to send our professors here. We need this is wonderful. We're still, yeah, honestly, we're still very much at the learning and adapting phase. I do not know. No, I know a small number of institutions that have documented guidelines, but we certainly do not have that at our institution. Yeah, we're still in the stage of learning about it. Maybe, Jai, I wonder if I could ask you to say a few words about your role at the college. One of your roles is to work with students who are accused of cheating. So, I know we've discussed some situations in which you've had to work with students who are accused of cheating with ChatGPT. Could you say a couple of words?
Of course, thank you. So one of my roles as a dean is student conduct. And usually we're on the side. We tend to be seen as the bad guys, but we are just there to listen to the students and the professor. So when professors suspect any form of cheating or academic dishonesty, they send forward to something called student conduct committee. And then based on such, they would assign they believe the deans may have the expertise in the field. Because I happen to be English faculty department chair prior to my role as a dean of international education. So I often get what we call the plagiarism, copying, texting, copying without citation. So one case was sent forward, and that's one of the very first cases sent forward by a professor saying that they should use ChatGPT because I run through the paper student work and chat 0, and then it says 95% of the text most likely was generated by AI. So that's the word that they use. So professors, this discussion board, this essay, this discussion board, this essay, and so forth. So I look at that, and then one thing what I did is I run, as many of you have done, I run my own writing through the same software program the professor used, and it also says my writing was generated by AI. So kind of understanding that, I called the student in. And talked to the student said, no, I wrote it myself. I said, okay. And so what I did was I actually had the student come in and then just sit there and then type, analyzing literature, a piece of poem by Emily Dickinson. And then I said, the student could write. I said, okay, so you have the ability to write. However, but I haven't done the expertise right. I look at the writing. Each one of us have our writing footprints. How we use comma, semicolon, period, is different. We're all educated people here, but how I use a semicolon or not is very different from James when he writes it. So as the student wrote right there without internet, just write it and then compare to what she submitted. I asked her, I said, kind of different style. I said, can you explain to me why the text you submitted in this style and then why you submitted, why you just wrote right now is this style? She said, I did get online. That's when she started to come out, and I said, okay. I said, but those are my ideas. Those are my words. I said, okay. So that's a bit. It's a bit convoluted. As you know, AI would come up with a quote that's similar to they believe the writer that you need to write it out. It was uncovered. Of course, that quote was not by Benjamin Franklin. That she was supposed to write about by someone else. That, as you see, it predicts the style, right? The style is similar, but nowhere in the text has that person. So the reason I go to detail of it is we spend so much resources trying to catch student cheating. And I think that resource could be better redirected to talk to the student and say how they can better use it properly. And then work with the professor as to what extent that you want to incorporate AI to your next semester teaching. This semester, everything that's not your words, not cited, is considered academically sound. And because we have course policy, and then we have student action and the result. So in this semester, cases like that, we have adjudicate based on course policy and what students submit. However, I think the best way would be first, when I call the student in, letting them know that there will be false positives. I understood that. The student will know, yeah, I'm not there to judge her, to punish her, to make it just, they're not criminals. What they want is the best grades possible. What they want is to have a better future. So if we keep putting their actions as if they have committed some crime in the academic field, that's how we drive students away. So after I talked with the student, I asked her to reach out to the professor, so they should come to some kind of consensus. The rest of the story doesn't matter as much, but what I have here was students feel so relaxed, and she was willing to share with me a lot more what she was going through, instead of dropping the class, because USU could drop the class. Instead of dropping the class, because she understood that I said, okay, this someone is listening to me. And I could use this tool, I just need to communicate with the professor. And the professor also needs to do a better job in establish the course policy, to what extent AI can be used. 100% banning it is not gonna work. As I use AI, right? Any one of us using our resume template from Microsoft, that's generated. I mean, and then as James was telling me, Microsoft already has AI embedded, which previous already did. It is not to the extent that we see it today. So we are struggling in some ways, very much like at the beginning of the summer, at the beginning of the pandemic, some professors were struggling with online teaching, but later now they're all embrace it, and they actually, many of them prefer to come to teach online. Similarly, I think in a year or two, because as AI runs fast, I hope we'll run as fast in terms of course policy as what AI is leading to the next generation of education.
We need to follow the example of Taiwan higher education and develop policies and communicate them clearly to our students. That's
and also to the faculty. Yeah, you cannot ban students. It's very, very difficult to ban students, but you can teach your faculty how to face it.
Yes, at 100%. I agree with you all 100%. And this is, as Jai was saying, many of you know,
yes.
ChatGPT, or a version of ChatGPT, is already a tool in Microsoft Office. It's being tested now, but in a few months' time, all of us will be using it in all of our activities. So if we ban it, oh my goodness, we are going to give students one more reason to leave us. And as I noted at the beginning, we already have students leaving us. Lower birth rate, no flexibility in teaching, right? We need to embrace it as you have done in order to remain relevant to our students. I want to share a new publication from UNESCO providing ideas about using artificial intelligence in higher education. Tony, you should be a co-author on this. It has lots of great information. Even I know this is very small, but this is an example of ideas about using AI in education, in the classroom, in teaching. Here are.
I think there are some faculties are using the ChatGPT in their classes.
Yes. Yes. Here are some examples that I shared of how maybe we could use it. How are your faculty using it?
Professor Chen.
In what way are you using?
Not myself, our colleagues.
Professor Jing she asks, he used the ChatGPT as part of the homework assignments in his service class. So what he does is to ask the student to document all the process, how he come to the ChatGPT to help, as well as how he comes to his classmates to help.
Yes.
And he can compare the result. Does the AI as a learning companion, does the tool really help? Or what kind of the combinations? Probably student with AI, or student with students, or student with AI itself. Yeah, how the dynamics of the social interaction, or maybe a part of a community with AI, what the dynamics happen in this class. I think that his study is really interesting.
That's really wonderful. Yeah, that's what we should all be doing.
Yeah, and I asked, we asked students to read the papers, and I asked the student to ask ChatGPT to get a summary of the paper.
Yeah.
And then compare whether they are correct or wrong. Yeah. To compare the generated summary and the actual information.
Yeah, that's perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, we need to send our professors here to learn from you about this. This is really advanced for us. This is very advanced. So I congratulate you.
The dean of the law school told me that they will have a course in the next semester to teach students how to use ChatGPT to generate official documents for lawsuits.
Yes.
Because the laws, they are all very standard, regular.
It's static. Yeah,
static.
it's not changing.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. Excellent idea. Excellent idea.
Actually, nowadays we also use ChatGPT to generate some material because like professors really don't have the time to write their, script to notes on FutureLearn because we partner with FutureLearn, and in that platform, the FutureLearn access to provide articles like instructional articles, and to tell the truth, the professors really don't have the good time to write those articles. So we use their transcript, their PPT to generate articles and ask the TA and teacher to review it to us open educational resources.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So that is examples, and we also like me, I teach like big data and teaching R. So I ask my students to, if they cannot find the answer, ask ChatGPT. But when they are doing tasks, they are in class. So they can really test and try and error to see how can they solve a problem with the help with ChatGPT and their partners.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. I think you're absolutely correct. Time saving, but with the human review.
Yes. Yes.
Right. We want to keep the humans involved. I'll share this. I'll leave the PowerPoint, of course, for you. There are some other resources here with resources about teaching. Many other resources about teaching that is being crowdsourced by professors all over the world. I'll close with what I hope is a good translation. That only the wisest and stupidest of men never change. Right? We must keep changing. We must keep changing. I'm so grateful to be here and to learn from you today. So with that, let's open up for questions or comments, or how are we with time?
10 minutes.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So yes, please. Did you have a comment?
I have a. Can we start the
Yes,
Q&A?
please.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by Professor James' presentation, and I learned a lot from your strategy for teaching instructors and professors how to teach online. Yeah, for your first part of the presentation. I'm wondering, since you presented that your online training include the pedagogy part and the technology part, and during the pandemic, and in Taiwan we started to use Zoom. Yes, and suddenly Zoom was banned. We are not allowed to use Zoom. Yeah. And then we found, a lot of professors found other tools such as
Google Meet.
Google Meet,
yes.
Yeah. And suddenly we found something else like the conference tool with the RPG, like the GatherTown. Okay. So we are constantly using new tools and learn how to use new tools. I'm wondering, in your technology part of the training, how do you train your instructors to adapt new technologies efficiently?
Yes. So thank you for the very good question. Our typical process is to have a dialogue or a conversation between our online education team and our faculty. So our online education team is primarily responsible for exploring new technologies, new tools, new ideas, and bringing those to our faculty to consider. We know that there are many issues to think about before we adopt a new technology. The cost, the security, the accessibility, the product life cycle, the product roadmap, for example. So if our team finds tools that can be interesting or useful for our faculty, first we'll look at the security, the accessibility, the cost. And if all of those things are good, then we bring them to a committee for discussion with our faculty. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's the process. Because yes, I think maybe my fellow dean knows sometimes our colleagues will find something new and really interesting, but we don't have the money for it. So we want to try to solve those problems first.
I have a question about because like I know that in our we are research-based university,
Yes.
so most professors are crazy in spending their time on research and get publications. So as like training and teacher and learning center, like it is very difficult to encourage our faculty to focusing on some training, even though we try to provide them. So I would like to know about in your college or in the public
Yes.
University system, how do you regulate the teachers to have like the this kind of formal training, and how do they? Is it like you need to finish this, then you can teach,
Yes.
or like you can teach anyway, but I give you some like extra fee or extra grant if you pass those things.
Yes. Yes. Well, first of all, it's not easy.
Yes.
Generally, in community colleges, so in teaching institutions,
Yes,
teaching
yes.
institutions, generally there is a requirement that everyone understands that professors must complete a certain number of hours of training every year. At our institution,
Yes.
every year a professor must do 40 hours of training. That's just part of your contract.
Oh.
It will be different at different institutions, but it's very common in teaching institutions. Everybody must do some training every year. Maybe it's serious training, maybe it's not serious training, but you have to do the training. In addition, training in new technology and online teaching is so essential to the future of the institution that the institution invests money in it. So above the normal training, we know that good teaching online is important for our future. So we must invest money in it. At research institutions, during the pandemic, the primary approach was to pay extra money to faculty. Pay extra money to complete the training. In addition, the conversations that are emerging now are how to recognize new teaching methods in your tenure and promotion. It's the same with creating open textbooks. If you're creating an open textbook, how does that compare to writing a journal article? Is that sort of the same? Or if you're teaching with new technology, does it count for the same as a research article? Maybe it counts for half of a research article. How do you fit the new things that the university values into your existing structure? Because you already have a structure. that recognizes your research. So how can you find a way to put the new stuff into that structure? Does that answer the question a little bit?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I think like the Ministry of Education recently, like these 1 to 2 months also to report how NTHU, I think like all over the university, how a teacher can get promoted as tenured professor. And MOE tried to encourage us to use like multiple ways, like not just research track, also like teaching track, like any different track. But we are still very conservative. I mean, like we although we provide like many different ways, but most professors choose the research track to get tenure. 99.9%.
I look at impact. That's why we in education. How big an impact will we have 1 year, 5 years, 10 years to come? So I was in literature, post-colonial theory. I wrote books, I wrote articles. Maybe 100 people read it, maybe, right? But get my degree, get my tenure professorship. But the impact's not that big.
Yes.
So if today I will go back to teaching, I would choose to work on OER textbook. That generation of the students, right? The professors will be able to benefit from it. So if we change a little bit, kind of shift our mindset a little bit about your work, regardless it's research or teaching based or policy development, if that work could potentially generate longer and a larger impact, perhaps that's how we should look at professorship.
And to go back to the idea of change, what will contribute to the survival of the university? We all need students. If your university has great research publications, but you offer no online classes, where will the students go? That's a real question for us. Right? So if the ministry and the university value the future, I hope you find a way to adapt your tenure requirements, right? To recognize what will help us all survive. Yes, sir.
Yes, I would like to talk about the online assessment, because in Taiwan, one of the difficult to promote the online courses is the credit, or even the online degree. So in Taiwan, education ministry now it's still difficult to offer the online credit if we offer the fully online courses. So I would like to know what is the criteria or period in USA to provide credit online courses?
Yes, I can come right back to the language from our law, from the federal law. So Washington D.C. and from California. This is the requirement. This is directly from the law. It does not talk about assessment. It talks about the human interaction. Now, the assessment is a matter for each university. We are not regulated by the ministry the way you are. The core of this is that the assessment is going to be done by a human being. So if you, for example, see that the student outcomes in your online class are 100%, and the student outcomes in your class are 50%. I think that's a conversation, perhaps that's a conversation about what are the differences between your approaches. It's not right or wrong, it's a question of what is the comparison? Are you both doing the same thing? Is maybe one of you is using a computer program to check all the work, and the computer program is easy. Maybe one of you is using a human being to check the work, and you are very rigorous and very difficult. Or maybe it's the reverse. How are assessments, how do you do assessments online here?
Yeah, it's very difficult
Yeah.
because students online, so we don't know. They are discuss with
That's
some
right.
friends via line or some other message.
Yes, so again, we go back to this question. Is your exam or your project, is it something that AI can answer? Is it something that you can buy on the internet? Is it the same thing that you wrote as an undergraduate? Right? If it's the same thing, write, I don't know, write an essay about cross-strait relations. God, students have written an essay about that probably every year of their life, right? Write an essay about George Washington, in our world. Students have written that every year. Of course they're going to find something online. But if I asked Jerry, as someone who lived in this specific place, in this specific time, how would you talk to George Washington if you would meet him today? How would you ask George Washington about the politics in the United States today, this specific situation, and give your unique opinion? Right? That's more challenging to steal online. Does that make sense a little bit?
Yes, I guess the university or even the Ministry of Education needs some guideline or some policy if an online course satisfy this kind of assessment, then the course can offer the credits by the university.
So perhaps the first step is for all of the universities with the ministry to define what does it mean to do an online assessment.
That's right.
What are the standards for assessment?
Yes.
And if I may, I think having gotten my degree in Taiwan as an undergraduate and went to the United States, I think sometimes I look at myself as a teacher, as an educator, how do I move from policing to facilitating? I say that is sometimes we want to catch the student to see if they did the work. Did you cheat? Did you do your work? Did you read? That's very policing, right? And that's our generation. We know it's sage on the stage, we listen and we learn. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But students, this generation students are different. They look at what tools can I use to help me learn. So we talk more about facilitating student learning. So such as bringing AI to the classroom and do a critical thinking part about, okay, how did you use AI? How do we analyze human creation and then the AI creation? So we become the facilitator to help students see the larger picture, larger context of using the tools. No longer about, did I catch you use AI? So I think before the policy can come about, as educators, we should shift our thinking and mindset. It's our job to police a student if they want, so we can give them a degree, or it's our job to facilitate students to learn in a way that benefits them for their future educational path, career path, therefore for the world that they live in and we grow up into. So policies are important, but without shifting the mindset of the policymakers, we're going to go back to the same way, right? So it's about, as a professor, it's so much easier for me to use the same writing prompt, the same test. But AI now probably will require me to new writing prompt, new questions, new test. So,
and that's also then a task for university leadership to recognize that it takes time and labor for professors to create authentic assessments, to create assessments that are unique, to create assessments that are relevant and new. That takes time. So how can the university recognize that? Do we pay you more?
Yes.
Do we give you more time? Do we give you more training? Right, that's also a responsibility. I'm sorry to say.
That's right. That's my headache.
That's also a larger question for the university, is how, if we know that we know there are fewer students, We know students have choices. We know that students want flexibility. We know that AI can take our jobs. So that's the landscape for a university administrator. If I want to stay in business, how can I help my faculty, my professors, to adapt? If I ignore it all, I don't have to spend any more money, great. But in 10 years, we will not be in business.
I still remember the case of Western Governor University.
Yes. Oh, you are so well informed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because the university lost its student financial aid status,
Yes.
and then was fined 3 times of the operational cost of the university by the federal government.
Yes.
So that's because the Office of Inspection General consider the university does not provide the online interaction with
That's right.
students.
That's
So
right.
my question is, before and after the pandemic, does the federal government change their attitude toward the interaction? Is it become more loose, or it has more regulatory regulations for institutions?
First of all, I'm so impressed at your knowledge of the landscape in a very detailed way. Yes, listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. No, the federal government has not become more loose. The federal government has become more detailed. For example, this is the language from the federal requirement for what is an online class that is eligible for federal financial aid, for the money from the government to support our students. So when our accreditation team comes, or when auditors come, they go into our online classes and they look for this with the checklist.
I want to ask, is it like all of them, or you can pick some of them?
Some of the courses, or
I mean,
all of
do you
these
need
elements?
to satisfy all the requirements?
Great question. Two of these. Two of these.
Mm.
At least 2 of these.
What is the sources of this document?
This is from, federal, it's the Federal Financial Aid Regulation called Title IV. So it's the regulation that gives, that qualifies a college or university to use federal money for its students. In California, this language was copied, and it's in our state regulations about education.
So if you want to receive the state funding, you have to follow the same regulations.
Yes. And this is word for word the same language that is in our accreditation standards. So when the accreditation team comes and visits us, which they just did last year, the good thing about accreditation was that I got to choose which courses they would look at.
Okay.
So I chose, the good courses. They got all the good courses. So that was very lucky. Great. Yes.
From my experience, from the online course I've taken at Harvard, what they do is do a proctor, proctor. And for example, I'm in California, so like they will have a certified proctor, certain institution will take tests for final assessment. That's my experience.
Yes.
When I was trying to get my master's.
Yeah.
So some online courses.
Yeah, online masters from Harvard. Yes.
So
yes.
they do a proctoring, distant proctoring. For example, public institutions, NTU, basically have a certified proctor there.
Yes.
To basically give you the test.
So,
Yes.
so the students are they are like in a real life.
Yeah, in the room. So
classroom.
why you show a certain date and time when that proctor, you show your ID.
ID,
right?
yes.
Oh,
okay.
It's a big industry.
Yes.
There's a project. Yeah, so Berkeley does the same thing too. I've taken some courses at Berkeley, so they've done the same thing. You have to have a final assessment for proctoring. You need to have a 70% to show a certain location for proctoring.
Excellent. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I want to ask a very minor question. How do you do the 24/7 service? So do you hire like staff for shifts? Yes.
Yes, that is outsourced. Actually.
Outsourced.
Yes, that is the one area that is outsourced. Everything else is
Your team.
our team, our staff. But the first one, 24/7, is outsourced. The LMS that we use in all of California is Canvas.
Canvas.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, buy stock in Canvas.
Oh, yes, Canvas is so
So
good.
maybe in the future, the chat support maybe can be supported by the ChatGPT.
Yes, oh, yes, yeah. So, yeah, the first one we paid Canvas for that. Yeah, we'll pay Canvas for that. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
James,
Yes, sir.
when you talk about the faculty training for the online courses, I saw you have a Zoom online courses training, which means the previous online courses training is not real-time online courses.
Yes, that's one of the that's one of the big ways that things have changed. Previously, our online classes, this is all over the United States and higher education, online meant asynchronous, right? It's delayed. It's mainly you're writing, maybe you're watching videos, but now through the pandemic and the experience with Zoom, two things have changed. One, a classic asynchronous online course will usually have some live Zoom as part of it. Number two, we have a whole separate format of class that's just a Zoom or a live class only. Okay. So, for example, if you're teaching computer science, it's very common to use Zoom Classroom, so the students are watching new code, you are watching the students' code, you're sharing the screen with them, and they're working on the code together.
So then you talk about the HyFlex.
Yes.
So is there any special training for that?
Yes, that is also, there is a special training for HyFlex in addition, yes. Yeah.
What's the main difference between the HyFlex and the Zoom?
Yes. The most part of the training is the same. The HyFlex training includes the technology going into the classroom and turning on the machines and using the machines and testing how you will talk to the students who are online and can you use the camera, can you use the mic? So it's technology is the big difference.
So how about the pedagogy? They have the different teaching way.
That's part of it, yes. The pedagogy training is really training in juggling, in multitasking, so that you're talking to the people who are online and talking to the people who are in person. But it's part of the Zoom training. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the online people will be able to participate.
Yes. Yes.
The HyFlex is actually giving the students the maximum kinds of choices.
Yes.
You can go into the class. You can decide, today I don't feel like going to the class. Heavy rain outside. I want to stay in the dorm to participate. But actually the HyFlex, we see that it will require higher cost.
Yes.
Put more burden on the instructor.
Yes.
Actually, it's more time consuming to prepare for the class.
Yes.
So, I think it will be difficult actually to ask the professors here in Taiwan to do HyFlex. It's a very good idea. It's excellent for the students, for the learner, but for the instructors, it's actually put quite a lot more burden on the instructors.
Yes. You're absolutely right, Professor. And ideally, you have a nice student assistant as your technology assistant in the classroom.
Yeah, I want to ask follow-up question. So, how large the class limit should be? Is it like, so can I have a HyFlex class with 300 students? Because but otherwise, how can I make interactions with all the students around?
You answered your own question.
Yes.
You know the answer to the question.
Actually, we have HyFlex in Zhao Lao's class.
Yeah, but then it's like still one-way interaction. It's not like
no. They design. You have to pose and design activities. So now it's a poll. I want online students and in-class students to poll at the same time. Then you want a time for group discussion. You have to design for both.
But I object with this one because it's like you are seeing the students as a number. It's not like in person. It's not you're not connected with individual students.
HyFlex is still a way of synchronous.
Yes,
There's
synchronous.
Yes.
So it's been again, the answer is in the question. You cannot have a personal connection with 300 students. But some universities are okay with that, right? We believe that for effective teaching with human beings, the classes should be smaller. But there's a cost for that. So if we can have 300 students in the class and we have no human connection, then it's very easy to replace us with robots. So we understand that when we have smaller classes, 30 students, 40 students, the positive side, of course, is that we have the human interaction, the students have more success. But on the negative side, it costs more money for the university. No question. I think we're getting a signal about the time.
So ACI, course I take it, they have actually two instruction designs.
Yes.
For the live one, asynchronous component and also online, so synchronous component. So there are 3 parts. So there are 2 instructors inside each course I take it.
Oh.
Yeah, inside that course, more like not a TA, but
co-teaching.
Co-teaching. So one kind of in charge of the online, the other one in charge of the live.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's I've seen that before.
Well, thank you. This is so interesting. I could discuss this all day, but I know we have time.
That's right. We learned a lot from your talk and the discussions. Thank you very much.
Well, we have learned a lot from your approach to generative AI. Thank you. I look forward to receiving a copy of the guidelines.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so let's head for the next round.
Everybody, we need to
take a photo, right?
哎，对不起，我先拿着，拍在哪？不然你要背着。哦，好。